Thanks so much.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed. Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, it's my gun, this is for fun, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble. We're all here. We're everywhere this morning, getting ready to dive into it. Big show for us today. In hour 1 here, we're about to be joined by Dr. John Lott, who's the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, as well as the author of numerous books, including the War on Guns and, of course, More Guns, Less Crime, and many others. He's also been writing prolifically at various different outlets, including Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Policy, and Firearm Federalist, and so many more. We're going to talk with him in just a moment about suppressors and how there's a lot of hand-wringing going on over that as well. In hour 2, we've got some headlines and phone calls from you. And then, of course, as always, we're going to finish up with our weekend movie review for this beautiful solstice weekend. Hope you guys are ready to go. It is absolutely gorgeous down here on top of the world in beautiful Homer, Alaska, with the sun shining brightly, not a cloud in the sky, and we are ready to just rock and roll into this. So let's get to it here as we get going on. I see Dr. Lott is waiting in the chat room, so without further ado, let's jump on over there here and talk with him. Again, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. You can find them at crimeresearch.org. Dr. John Lott joins us this morning on the program. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing okay. How about yourself?
Like I said, it's a beautiful day. It's solstice. It's already 55 degrees, and it's going to be a beautiful day. And we're just ready for a great weekend and some great discussions with you on what's happening. So, Dr. Lott, you just wrote this piece that came out yesterday, day before, talking about this tremendous amount of hand wringing for people like Chris Murphy and others, where they are portraying suppressors as if they are the full movie silencers. Of course, the big deal is that the suppressors, the removal of the suppressors from the National Firearms Act list is in the big, beautiful bill. And of course, that immediately made them go into full-on frothing at the mouth mode about how dangerous this is and how, every criminal in the world will have one and all this other kind of stuff. Although the statistics don't really prove that out. Give us a little bit of background here on what's happening and what you're seeing.
All right. Yeah. So last week, the Democrats in the Senate held a press conference condemning the fact that the federal $200 tax on manufacturing or suppressing suppressors was going to be cut to zero, and went on about all the dangers about how this was going to go and make mass public shootings more deadly, how this was something that only criminals would want to have, that nobody else would want to have, how if you put what they call a silencer on a gun, somebody could be in the room next door to you and be firing and you wouldn't hear anything. Um, None of those things are true. First of all, the latest numbers we have indicate that there's about 3.5 million Americans who are legally licensed to have a suppressor on their gun. If you look over the last decade, there are 44 prosecutions involving crimes that were alleged to have occurred with suppressors. So that's, like tens of thousands of 1 percentage point of the suppressors out there. And so there's a lot of law-abiding citizens who value using these, not in the connection with crimes. And it's mainly because it helps people retain their hearing to some extent. It doesn't make it silent. An AR-15, which is not a particularly large round, it's a relatively small caliber hunting rifle equivalent. If you put a suppressor on it, it'll reduce the decibels on it to about what you'd get if you were within 3 feet of a jackhammer, which I assume most people wouldn't view as being silent.
Right.
As far as some of the other claims that this would lead to an increase in casualties from mass public shootings, if you look at over the last 25 years, what you find is that, or 27 years, there's been 104 mass public shootings. 2 of them have involved suppressors in any way, and not all the guns in either of those attacks use suppressors. So I'm not really even sure what was accomplished with it. But if you look at the casualties for those 2 cases, woundings and killings came to 11. The average number of casualties for the other 102 mass public shootings was 19. So cases not involving suppressors were actually had significantly higher casualty rates. So, I mean, one could go on with these things, but it's just it's you figure either they have never fired a gun, particularly a gun with a silencer on it, uh, or they just are making things up and they don't care about whether they're accurate. And the media sure as heck didn't call them out on any of the false claims that they were making
Right.
about these things. But a lot of people, you look at other countries. A number of European countries have no regulations on suppressors. Some countries, like France, for example, will actually fine you if you go hunting or do other things without a suppressor in many circumstances.
Right.
So, because they view it as essentially a health feature and one that won't, well, at least reduce the amount that you're going to disturb other people.
Yeah, no, it's either Denmark or Norway where they have them in the hardware store, just like next to the potting soil and the lawn clippers, right? I mean, it's an over the counter, it's just a safety device like anything else. And-
All the Scandinavian countries have either little or no regulations at all on suppressors.
right. Well, and what's really frustrating, again, as you said, is the fact that they continue to propagate these lies as if they are the damned truth no matter what, and people just buy it up. And I think a lot of that, of course, is perpetuated by Hollywood and the entertainment industry, where in the movie the guy shoots and the person across the room has no idea that anything's happened. But as you
Right.
said, I've shot a lot of suppressed firearms, and the quietest still sounds like somebody slapped a library book on a table. You know what I mean? A big library book. It's not quiet by any means, but the public just keeps eating it up. And what really surprises me is because suppressors are functionally so easy to make. I mean, I've known how to make a suppressor for 30 years. I mean, I've looked at the technology and the studies, and you could build one. Anybody that is half mechanically inclined could build a pretty good one in their garage with basic tools. And of course, improvised suppressors are, it's not hard to make an improvised suppressor with a soda bottle and some steel wool. You know what I mean? And so, but what really surprises me is that there's not actually more crimes because
Right.
they're so easily made, and they just seem to avoid that fact.
Yeah, no, one of the things I talk about is exactly the point that you're raising, which is correct, that it just takes uh it just takes relatively moderate mechanical skills uh to go and make a suppressor. I mean, it's not as maybe quite as easy as a magazine, which basically is a box with a spring in it. I've seen people put that together in literally 2 minutes. But it's, as you say, it's almost surprising that if this was such a boon for criminals, and given how easy they are to go and make them, why don't you see it all over the place here? Um, so I don't know. Uh, it's ki- uh, it's kind of a mystery why the media is completely uncritical in these claims.
No, and what really gets me is, we're talking about a fairly small 3 million suppressors, and it has come way up. I mean, suppressor ownership has really made leaps and bounds in the last decade or so. Are they just afraid that more citizens will exercise that right? I don't understand the fear mongering behind this, other than the fact that, of course, is that it gives more people access to more firearms type things or accessories that maybe they wouldn't have heretofore. Maybe it's just because it's their power or their control over this is slipping, because now they wouldn't have the NFA and the tax and everything else to categorize it and keep control of it.
Yeah, I don't. It's a relatively minor revenue source that the government has there. It's a drop in the bucket compared to these things. Democrats are trying to challenge its inclusion in the reconciliation bill that's there. I, from at least the initial news reports I saw this morning, it seems unlikely that at least on that they're going to be successful in challenging it. But it's it's yeah, you have so many of these regulations that are out there, and we've talked about many over time, that don't accomplish what the Democrats claim that they're going to do, and they're based upon false claims. Everything from red flag laws to, I mean, you name it. So, background checks on the private transfers of guns. I was just reading an article the other day that was, making it sound like these serial numbers on guns were extremely important in solving crimes. Uh, you know, we've talked about this before.
Right.
You can look at places like Hawaii and New York and Maryland and Illinois and DC and even Canada that have had registration and licensing. And over decades, they can't point to any crimes that they've been able to solve as a result of licensing and registration. If in theory, if a gun is left at a crime scene and uh, it is registered to the person who committed the crime, you can solve the crime. Problem is, crime guns are virtually never left at this crime scene. And the few times that they are, the criminal's been either killed or seriously wounded, so you've caught them anyway. And the few times beyond that, they're not registered. And the once or twice that they are registered, they're not registered to the person who committed the crime. And so you have huge resources that go into this stuff. But I don't know, I just find it frustrating. Obviously the Biden administration was constantly making claims, and things like that affected things like the Vanderstock case, where you could tell the Biden administration was on shaky footing legally, but the Supreme Court, at least a couple of the justices, Roberts and Barrett, were very concerned about the crime fighting aspect of this.
Right.
Judges and justices don't want to do things that they think are going to negatively impact people's safety. And unfortunately, the too many of these myths are out there and they're not effectively dealt with.
You're going to have to write a whole nother gun control myths part 2, I think, at this point, to try and bust some of this stuff out, because as you point out, again, the numbers just don't lie when you look at it. But again, I think a lot of it is about the control aspect of it. They feel like they need to control it in any way that they can, even if it's not successful in doing what they think it's going to do. We're going to continue with Dr. John Lott, again, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. You can find him at crimeresearch.org. You can find a list of all his latest op-eds and pieces, and of course, their deep research as well. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more in just a moment. We'll be back with John Lott right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Dr. John Lott is our guest. Dr. Lott, it's been a good summer so far for me. How about for you? Newly married and all that other kind of stuff. You've been having a good time?
Life's been interesting. I'll leave it at that. So I had a few personal problems, but just nothing I would want to get into.
Okay.
But anyway, I appreciate it.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, it's been good. I've been following everything you've been writing. Of course, you recently were writing about more than that as well. That you what was the last piece that I was just reading? The deportations that you had when you wrote over at the Federalist, talking about that as well. And I do want to get into that. As deportations rise, the murder rate has dropped, which I found to be an interesting corollary, although I'm sure you would chastise me for saying that there's a direct correlation there, but I find it was an interesting piece as well. So we can get into that here in just a moment. Folks, if you haven't gone over to the crimeresearch.org, you probably should and sign up. Do you guys have like a mailing list or anything, Dr. Lott, that people can get like the latest notifications?
Yeah, for 13 years, we've put out an email once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Well,
disappointed that you're not on it.
I was just going to say, bad show. Well, you always send me the good stuff, so I guess I'm unique in that way. I'm easy. I'm going to have to go over there and get the newsletter. So go over to crimeresearch.org and get signed up for their news list, because Dr. Lott's always got something good to talk about. The NFA, Dr. Lott, I know that we've talked a little bit about it, and this is really the big dive here into it with the suppressors and everything else. But there's been a push too on, of course, short-barreled rifles and some other things. Have you done any deeper dives and statistics on the usage of things like short-barreled rifles or AOWs, the stubby shotguns or shotgun pistols, destructive devices? Have you done any deeper research on the prevalence of those things or items in crimes?
I don't even know any data that collects it on that, which I guess tells you something about how infrequently they must be used in that way.
Right.
I honestly, I couldn't tell you the number of crimes. I would just say that it's pretty rare.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the thing. We keep coming back to that, but it keeps coming back to how rare the crimes are. You were talking about in a decade, 44 suppressor related crimes per year over the past decade.
No, total.
That's total.
Total
Okay.
over the 10 years, there were 44 prosecutions.
Oh, okay. All right, because your article says 44 suppressor related crimes per year over the past. So, but again,
Really?
0.00. I mean, zero. There's a lot of zeros in there when you get down to it, that registered suppressors are being used in a crime. And this is, quite honestly, this could even go back to the argument about machine guns. In fact, because I think there's only been a handful of actually legally owned machine guns that have been used in crimes. One of the first was an actual police officer who had a registered MAC-10 or something that he used to kill someone. Again, this is like so low. The crime rate on these things is so low, and yet everybody acts like that those lawful gun owners are the ones that are going to be creating all these crimes. That's what continues to blow my mind.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. Just having a mental block here for a second. Could you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that
Yeah.
again, the number of crimes committed with lawful, with lawful guns, like we're talking about, there's no data on short barrel rifles, but like even machine guns, it's
Oh
incredibly
yeah,
low.
machine guns. There's been one murder in the United States committed with the machine gun since the 1930s. So it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And yet if you go and watch TV cop shows during the 2021 2022 season, 85% of the guns that were shown being used by criminals on the show were machine guns.
Yeah.
So they'll go in and say, well, the person has an
The Michael Duke
AR-15,
Show,
and then they'll
common
show a
sense,
machine gun being
liberty-based,
fired.
free-thinking radio. Welcome back to the program. Sorry about that. We just jumped back in. Dr. Lott and I were deep into it there. Dr. John Lott is our guest, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. We're talking about his latest article over at Real Clear Policy. And if you want to go check it out, you can find it at Real Clear Policy, or go to crimeresearch.org and you can look at their latest op-eds. I'm posting the links up into the chat room right now to give you an opportunity to go read it. Again, what really blows my mind here, Dr. Lott, is that the number of crimes that are actually committed is low. We were just talking about that during the break. But again, the real thing was this latest shooting, which was the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO. I mean, he didn't go get a suppressor legally. He printed his own. I mean, there's enough information out there printing their own.
He printed his gun too.
Yeah. So how would deregulating suppressors for lawful legal gun owners stop any criminals? Are still going to be doing what they're doing, right? I mean, the other story was,
as you were pointing out earlier, I mean, even without a 3D metal printer, it only takes like moderate mechanical skills to be able to go and make a suppressor. And with 3D printers, there are different types of 3D printers, but if you have a 3D metal printer, you can make a gun that looks and is functionally identical to any gun that you can go and buy at a gun store. And you can make a suppressor that looks and is functionally identical to any suppressor that you could buy. So, if somebody has access to a 3D metal printer and they have access to the internet, they can download a file that will have the printer print out exactly, all the different parts of the gun, all the different parts of the suppressor that they would put together.
Right, and it's like a desktop CNC machine that they do those with, like the Ghost Gunner or something like that. Again, and anybody, even with a modicum of mechanical skills in a garage in an auto shop, can make suppressors as well. That's what really gets me. But the criminals don't seem to be doing it, and your numbers prove that out again and again and again. That even as easy as they are, they're still relatively new and low on the horizon. What do you think is the status going to be? You care to speculate on where you think this is going? I know this has been a big part. They're putting it, fighting, putting it in the reconciliation bill, but this is the tactics in Washington. You care to speculate on where you think this is going?
Assuming that they get the reconciliation bill passed, I think that this will be in it. The Senate parliamentarian came out and issued a lot of rulings today about what parts of the Senate bill passed the so-called bird bath rule that they have there. And none of the gun issues were flagged as violating that rule. So now maybe she hasn't put out her full report yet or not. And reading the news stories this morning, it seemed pretty clear that it probably was the full report. But assuming that that's the case, it just is a question of whether or not they can get the reconciliation bill passed or not.
Well, we'll wait and see. We've been waiting for a long time from the Hush Act to begin with, and some of these other things. We've been waiting for a long time for these items to come off the NFA list because, as you pointed out, in most other countries, even countries with stringent gun control, suppressors are treated as nothing more than a safety device like earmuffs or eyewear to protect the shooters in those areas when they're using their firearms. So let's hope that this is one instance where we do follow the lead of Europe versus everything else, but we'll see what happens with that. The other piece that you wrote here recently over at The Federalist was a discussion on the murder rate in the U.S. Now, they made a lot of hay during COVID about how we'd been on a gradual decline for decades in violent crime and in murder in the United States. And then, of course, during COVID, it spiked back up. But you're talking in this latest piece about how it's coming back down. And there is an interesting correlation to that, talking about deportations as well, being part of a bigger picture. Can you walk us through that? And again, I don't want to say that there's correlation necessarily directly between the two, but you're the one that's an expert on that. So can you give me the background here?
Right. Well, I mean, it's suggestive right now. Look, about a week or so ago, Kash Patel issued a statement saying that the United States was on track for the lowest murder rate that's ever been recorded in this country. And which you would think under most normal conditions would make up headlines in newspapers across the country. But you will search in vain for any of the media coverage on that. So there are multiple things that are going on here. I think part of it is what Kash was talking about in that presentation, where he was saying, let good cops be cops. They're going and making it easier for police and sheriffs to go and do their job. You had about a third of the FBI agents had been stationed in Washington, D.C., even though obviously not a third of the crime was in the D.C. area there. They're moving them out to parts of the country where crime rates, murder rates are particularly high, like Indian reservations, for example. They've moved a number of people there and to major cities. And you also had the Biden administration have been pushing DEI type policies for police departments, requiring that they not look at kind of merit for promotions and for hiring individuals, but look at other types of characteristics. In fact, usually the rules would be they would want them to get rid of intelligence tests completely in hiring police officers. One of the reasons why they had things like writing skills there is that police officers have to fill out police reports.
Right.
And what you find happening is if a police officer is not able to write a coherent police report, then that may many times force the prosecutors to go and drop the case that's there because the defense will point out the inconsistencies and bizarre, mistakes and other things in the police report, and that will bring doubt upon the case that's there. And so that makes it less risky for criminals to go and commit crime. And so when you've seen drops, elimination of those types of tests, you see increases in crime rates. So the Trump administration has ended that policy of trying to force additional police departments to go in that area, in that direction. And you've also replaced a number of George Soros prosecutors around the country. And in Los Angeles, for example, Gaston was removed, and a former Republican who switched to being an independent to run for the position there won handily and is being tough on crime there. San Francisco also replaced the George Soros prosecutor that was there, and you've seen that in other places. So there's simple law enforcement reasons for that. But, one of the things also is just the deportation. And just to compare that to the Biden administration, we only have data up through 2023 right now from the National Crime Victimization Survey. But during the 3 years of the Biden administration, you saw the largest percentage increase in violent crime over a 3-year period that we've ever seen since they started collecting this data over 50 years ago. It's more than twice as large as the largest previous increase of 27%. And so then we had a huge number of illegals coming into the country, and we saw a big increase in violent crime. Well, now Trump is deporting illegal aliens, particularly focusing on criminal illegal aliens. And you have a situation where crime is falling. Murder numbers, which we have the best on right now, as I mentioned, is showing a historically large drop to a historically low rate that's there. And I think there are two things that are going on. One is you're simply removing some of these criminals from the area, deporting them back to their home countries. And secondly, even the criminals that you haven't caught are laying low. And the reason for laying low is that they know that if they go and commit a crime right now, they're going to be on police radar and they're going to be more likely to get caught. And so, and if they get caught, they're going to be deported. They're likely to be turned over to ICE. So the safest course of action for them right now is to try to keep their heads down. And we see this in other areas too. You see this in terms of the job market. During the Biden administration, 5.4 million of the jobs that were created were to non-native born Americans. It was huge. It was a tremendous percentage of the total jobs that were created. Now, we don't know how many of those were legal immigrants versus illegal aliens, but the Biden administration gave out millions of work permits to illegal aliens that were there. But the interesting thing is while we had this huge increase in non-native born Americans working in the labor force during the Biden administration, under Trump, the opposites happened. We've had during the first 4 months of the Trump administration, we had a drop of 773,000 jobs for non-native born Americans. Presumably, most of those are illegal aliens. And
laying low because of how much ice has been making waves in the water. They just want to stay home so they don't get popped up in the radar, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, you may have heard the Trump administration has been using the IRS to go and help identify these illegal aliens who may have been working. Now, these people may have simply moved into the underground economy, in order to get an income right now. But, you know, it's just another example of, because of the deportations, them lying low and making it more difficult for ICE to go and identify them.
Yeah, what really shocks me is, all the protests and everything else up here in Alaska. They put 30 ICE detainees were shipped up to Alaska to be housed here because they're having such a issue trying to house them, and people were freaking out. And again, what really shocks me is that they're going after people who already are criminals, have criminal records. I mean, setting aside the fact that they came into the country illegally, but that they have usually violent criminal records, and people are protesting that, how dare we arrest people with violent criminal records. It's kind of a shocking statistic for sure. Dr. John
Yeah, I mean,
Lott,
you look at Los Angeles, where
yep.
they had the riots that were there. What triggered them is they had gone after like 100 criminal illegal aliens. I mean, these were people who had committed murder, who had committed child rape, who had done other types of horrible crimes that were there. They picked up a few other people who were illegals that happened to be there with the criminal illegal aliens that they picked up. But the focus was overwhelmingly on criminal illegal aliens. You have cases like Boston a little while ago that released 3 child rapists, illegal aliens, without notifying ICE, making it so that they couldn't be picked up. One of the illegal aliens was from Brazil, and he apparently had a long history of child sexual abuse. You really have to wonder to yourself, as you're saying, why would a city or a state want to keep people who are like child rapists in their community? Why wouldn't they want them punished? Why wouldn't they want them deported? The only thing I can think of with regard to this is that you have a situation where redistricting, the number of congressional seats that each state gets, is related to the number of people, both legal and illegal, that live there. And you may have several million people in California, for example, who are illegal aliens.
Right.
Well, that's a number of maybe like 4 or 5 congressional seats
Right.
that they have. New York, Illinois have similar types of issues that are there. You'd like to think that just to be able to go and get more political power, they wouldn't go and want to keep murderers and child rapists and drug dealers and cartel members in their areas. But apparently, at least that's one possible explanation for why they fight so hard, and why they fought so hard against the last census, not counting illegals in the count of Americans.
Right. No, apportionment is a huge deal. But even with that, if they're looking to keep their power base and everything else, I can intellectually understand the difference. But when you have violent criminals, why would you still allow the violent criminals in there? Because if there's 5 million illegal aliens, even if only 10,000 of them are violent criminals, why wouldn't you still want that 10,000 number out of the 5 million to keep the rest of the community safe? It makes
Well, it's a lot more than 10,000. So these are numbers from the Biden administration, so I think that they underestimate the problem by a lot. But about a month before the election, September last year, they came out with a report from ICE indicating that of the 7.4 million so-called non-detained individuals, 663,000 of them had criminal records. Now, there are a couple points to make. One is a lot of countries, like Venezuela, for example, would not provide any information to the government on the criminal backgrounds for their citizens who are illegally in the United States. So, who knows how many more it was than the 663,000. And also, you have the problem that almost all of those non-detained individuals were ones that had voluntarily turned themselves in at the border. That's not the group that you should be most concerned about. The ones who the so-called gotaways, there were over 2 million of those during the Biden administration. And then you have God knows how many other millions of individuals that came into the country that we weren't able to go and check at all, because we had 76% of the border agents have been pulled off of monitoring the border and instead were being used to process the illegals that they were letting in. About a third of the passive monitoring equipment that we had was broken during the Biden administration, and they were not fixing it. So we had large parts of the border where we had neither border agents nor passive monitoring equipment that were monitoring people coming across. And so God knows how many more millions, but it's those who didn't want to turn themselves in. I mean, it's amazing that you have essentially 9% of the ones who turned themselves in at the border. Again, even not including the ones from countries that we weren't counting, like Venezuela. I mean, that's high enough anyway, but just to think of the fact that you could have much, much higher rates among these others that wouldn't voluntarily turn themselves in, that snuck across the border, is scary.
Dr. John Lott, our guest. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Those numbers are pretty scary. When you talk about nearly 10% of the self-surrenders have criminal records, not to mention the ones that you can't get records for and everything else. And again, totally not even acknowledging the 2 million that are gotaways. I mean, what do you think, Dr. Lott? I mean, the gotaways have got to be predominantly, because obviously they didn't want to get caught. They've got to be.
It's the gotaways plus
criminal element.
I mean,
that's
gotaways
a
are ones
huge
we
number
see coming across the border but didn't catch. And then there's others, there's unknown millions more that we never even saw coming across the border.
Right. It's got to be, I mean, the number's got to be, into the 15, 20. I mean, that's got to be a significant number by the time it's all said and done. So maybe there is not just a casual correlation, maybe there is a deeper correlation between ICE, the crackdowns, and the crime dropping.
Well, I think it's surely plausible to me. I mean, it's just, look, I mean, you look at look, there are lots of things that have been happening with crime over the last few years. But when we had this huge influx, violent crime was increasing at record rates. And when we've had the deportations, we've had this very large drop in murders. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the media tries to spin this, because I assume they'll eventually have to go and deal with the murder numbers.
Right.
I'm sure they will not attribute it in any way to the deportations.
Brian asked the question in the chat room. He said, if the murder rate is pushing a historic low, are shootings likewise down, or are we getting better at mitigating death from gunshots? I mean, is there a correlation? Or shootings across the
I
country?
don't think there was a change over the last 4 months in our ability to save people's lives who were shot.
Right.
Maybe obviously over decades or something like that, there's been a change, but nothing that's occurred just since January 20th.
Is the drop in,
And
again,
besides that, just to mention, again, it's not just the change in crime, it's also the job market, for example, that I talked about. You know, why is it that non-native born Americans were getting all sorts of jobs during the Biden administration, and now we have this 773,000 drop that's occurred during just the first 4 months of the Trump administration. It's not like medical procedures getting better would explain why that's occurred.
right? Well, and I think it's interesting to say, because again, going back to pre-COVID numbers, we saw that, I mean, violent crime and murder were both on a continual decline curve and had been for years, for decades. And then to see that little spike during COVID, and now to see it kind of settling back down, and I think I want to get back into this on the other side when we come back on the radio. But, people have this vision of America that somehow it's the lawless Wild West, when the numbers don't really prove that out. That it's not a shootout on every street, but that's how the news media portrays it. And you and I have gone over this for several years, the fact that the news media plays into this narrative more and more and pushes that kind of ideal on the citizens. And so that's what a lot of average citizens think too, not just people overseas, but people here, that every place we go, we're in danger of being shot.
Well, the United States is fairly unique in terms of how extremely concentrated murders are in tiny areas within the United States. 2% of the counties in the United States account for about 56% of the murders. And if you ever go and look at a murder map for those areas, what you'll see is that um, uh, 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 about 2/3 of those murders occur within 10-block areas within those cities. So the United States is very unique in terms of how extremely geographically concentrated murders are. And a lot of it has to do with that's where the drug gang activity is.
Right. Because and I don't remember if you actually had a statistic or not, but I know that at one point there was some discussion about, of all the firearms violence and deaths and homicides, there was a percentage of them. There were obviously criminal on criminal violence, but I remember there were some estimates that said it was somewhere in the 75-80 percentile range. Is there any numbers on that, new numbers on that, as to how many of them?
The FBI data doesn't break it down that way. What often confuses people is that they see more than half of the murders involve acquaintances, and they assume that acquaintance murders involve people who kind of are emotionally close to each other. But in fact, most acquaintance murders.
I'm sorry, Dr. Lott. Hold on. We're about to rejoin. I just don't want to blow over it again here. We're about to go back. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go. Let's do it.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Those assault penguins, boy, they're rough. Almost as bad as trunk monkeys. Dr. John Lott, Crime Prevention Research Center, is our guest. We were just talking during the break, and we were talking about the breakdown of how many of the violent crimes and homicides and things in the country are more criminal on criminal violence. And although he says the FBI doesn't break it down that way, some of it can be done. But you were talking about this idea of acquaintanceship, and how most people kind of, when they hear that, they think loved ones, family members, something like that. But that's not necessarily the case. Is that right?
That's right. Look, over half the murders in the United States are acquaintance murders. And as you say, when people hear that, they think people who are somehow emotionally close to each other. The FBI doesn't break it down, but it's pretty common knowledge that most of those acquaintance murders involve rival gang members. It's very common for the members of one gang to know who the members of another gang are. They have to interact, they do battles with them all the time. It's very common for them to know each other. And so, plus acquaintance murders also, not just that, but you have other bizarre things that are included. So I'll give you a simple example. If you have a cab driver and somebody comes up to the side of the cab and robs him and murders him, that's classified as a stranger murder. But if the cab driver has a fare in the back of his cab there, and the fare murders the cab driver in a robbery, that's going to be classified as an acquaintance murder, because of the perceived financial relationship that existed between the cab driver and the person that was in the cab. So my guess is most people don't kind of understand kind of how these numbers are put together.
Dr. Lott, we're down to the last 3 minutes or so. What do you think is, what do you think of the state overall of the gun culture and the kind of the war on guns right now? Are we making moves forward, or are we kind of stalemated? We just saw the Vanderstock decision, obviously was a little disappointing, et cetera. What is your thoughts overall as far as getting the truth out there about gun statistics and fighting some of these gun control myths and everything else? Where do you think we're at here? We got about 2.5 minutes.
Well, I mean, I think there are different levels that things are moving. I think in terms of just the law, I think things are moving in the right direction. The Trump administration, I strongly believe, is the most favorable to private self-defense administration that we've ever had in this country. I think the new Solicitor General is a really excellent appointment. And I think the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to hear a number of gun cases, and I think that they will hear more of them. One of the problems that you've had is that Democrat states, which passed this crazy strict gun control laws like assault weapons bans, they are in circuit court districts that the Democrats control. And so one of the problems that you've had in a lot of these cases is that there's no split decisions. The Supreme Court likes to take up cases where you have some circuits rule one way and some other circuits rule another way. But since the Democrats have had such a lock on those circuit court districts, you haven't had those split decisions. Now, over time, as Trump appoints circuit court judges, you may be able to flip one or two of those circuits and get some changes, like the Third Circuit that covers Pennsylvania and New Jersey is one example that could flip, and that would be very important. Obviously you have a lot of states like California and Washington State and Oregon and other places that are going full tilt in terms of passing really draconian gun control laws. So it's kind of a race for time to see how quickly the courts can deal with this and how quickly Trump can get judges on the bench. But I have to say, of all the presidents during my lifetime, there's never been a president has appointed as consistently good judges and justices on the courts for the whole Bill of Rights,
right?
Let alone the Second Amendment.
Dr. John Lott, you can find him at crimeresearch.org. You can buy his books there as well. Gun Control Myths, More Guns, Less Crime, War on Guns, and more. Thank you so much, Dr. Lott. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter as well. Appreciate you coming on. Hour 2 dead ahead.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. John, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time. We really love talking to you, and it's always good. I hope you have a better weekend, and we'll catch you again soon. Thanks for keeping me in the loop on everything. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do us any good to put work 80, 90-hour weeks putting the research together if people don't get it. And being on our email list allows them to go and see all the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well,
I appreciate it.
as soon as I get off the show here today, I'm going to run over there and subscribe myself just to make sure that I'm staying. Dr. Lott sends me a lot of stuff, but it'll be better if I can pull some of it myself. So thank you, Dr. Lott. I appreciate you coming on board.
All right. Thank you.
Good to talk with you.
Have a good weekend.
You bet. You too. Dr. John Lott, our guest here, the Michael Duke Show. All right. Let me fix a few things here. Get things kind of pulled back from the brink. All right. We're going to go through. Yeah. All right. Let's continue on here. I got some of the comments here in the chat room that I wanted to get to. I haven't seen the new Coleon Noir video about the guy using birdshot. I watch a lot of Coleon Noir, but I have not seen the latest one yet. I've been off YouTube here for a couple of days. Is John Lott related to Jack Lott? I don't think so. Maxim Lott is his son, who does a lot of good work for John Stossel. I don't know if you know John Stossel, libertarian of old ABC fame. His son Maxim Lott does a lot of work with John Stossel. Let's see. Brian said, I think a contributing factor is the refusal of the quote unquote enlightened left to accept that there are criminals in the immigrants. There's the Hallmark Disney view of the criminal trespassers as poor and oppressed. I'm sure that there is a portion of them that are poor and oppressed. But yes, to put that moniker or to put that label on every one of them is naive. I mean, how many of them are escaping their countries simply because they've done bad things and don't want to get caught, right? And they want to come to a new area to have a whole fresh new field to work on. That's the big thing there. Anthony said, yeah, but let's get real talking about suppressors. Your average criminal, and let alone the average citizen, isn't going to be buying a CNC machine and know how to use it. The skill level is a bit more than moderate, ripping CAD files to spec firearms parts and maintain that equipment. No, but again, what really kills me on this is that it doesn't take a CNC machine to make a basic homemade suppressor. I mean, again, some duct tape and a Coke bottle in some ways can be used. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, but we're not seeing a lot of that in these crimes, which again just shows me that that this is more about hand wringing and the perception. And I think what it is more than anything else is that it's fear of the loss of control, that these politicians are freaking out about the suppressors being taken off the NFA because they fear even the perception of the loss of control. Doesn't matter if it's real. They could tell all the lies they want. Oh, suppressors make them silent. They're silent killers now, right? Or the fact that the number of crimes with suppressors, 44 in 10 years, 0.0003% of all suppressor, it's astonishing. But I think more than anything else, it has to do with the loss of control. So I think that's a huge deal. I wanted to say hi to my dad. He told me this morning, first thing he said, hey, we still here, no worries. I called my dad late last night because a coworker called. There's that big fire up on Gilmore just a few miles away from my folks' house up there, and they're in ready, set, go. They're in the set status. They're in the yellow area. I checked it first thing this morning, and it looks like that the fire is still holding steady. But in 90 minutes last night, the fire doubled in size up there from 5 acres to 10 acres. And so I was just a little worried about them. And I see a lot of you live out on Chena Hot Springs, Steel Creek, those areas out there. And it's, Esro, Gilmore, Gold Mine Estates, all those folks out there are in a bit of danger. It's been quite a while since we had a big fire out there. In fact, the last one was 35 or 40 years ago. I remember watching the bombers, the water tankers go out there and hit the fire up north of Gold Mine Trail there. So anyway, I'm glad to hear, Dad, things are going well. I'm watching it, and we're praying for you guys up there. I worry. I'm 600 miles away, and it really it stresses me out because I want to be there for Mom and Dad. So anyway, I'm glad things are going well. Let's hope that they did it. The Fairbanks North Star Borough did say that they have now they've got city resources, a helicopter, they got a retardant plane, and smoke jumpers were ordered into the fire. So let's hope that they've got it contained. It hasn't been updated since 9 p.m. last night. So I'm waiting for an update on this. But anyway, all you folks out there in that neck of the woods, stay safe. I saw Frank said that he's up on Chena Hot Springs. And Anthony, I think, did you say Steel Creek or something? Anyway, you guys, I worry about all you guys up there. It's definitely a time. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's do it.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Duke Show. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. We are ready to go for this, our favorite day of the week, where we dive into issues related to the Second Amendment and everything else. We just finished up with Dr. John Lott from the Crime Research Center. You can find him at Crime Prevention Research Center, and you can go over there and find his latest piece at crimeresearch.org. And I appreciate him coming on. Some great stuff there. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to it on the podcast. And podcasts, of course, are available wherever you find them, including the Spotify is probably the easiest if you want to listen there as well. Or you can go back and watch it on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble later on the replay. It's good stuff. Okay, lots of headlines going on around here, but I do want to recap a little bit of what Dr. Lott was talking about with just some of my thoughts. We were just talking about it in the chat room during the top of the hour. And I think a lot of this hand-wringing that you see from Democrats, especially over the idea that suppressors are potentially coming off of the NFA list. And I mean, let's hope that if for nothing else, to see them come on. I hate to say this because of the financial issues and everything else. But I mean, if I was in Congress, I would vote for the reconciliation simply for that one piece alone. Just because at this point, I mean, it really would. But I think that one of the reasons why this hand waving freakoutery is happening is because they see it as a loss of control. As I was telling Dr. Lott earlier, this is one of the few times where I think that we should take Europe's lead on a gun issue, right? Because, everybody's like, oh, we should be more like England. Oh, we should be more like fill in the blank with some European country. And of course, we've seen how that's worked out for them recently as well, with some of the shootings and things that are going on and the murders that are happening in those communities. They're not murder-free environments just because they have a huge proscription or prohibition on firearms. But, one of the things that they do have is that a lot of them have regulations about the usage of suppressors. Even countries with very stringent gun control laws, like we were saying, the Scandinavian countries, they literally sell suppressors over the counter. And in fact, in some cases, require their use if you're going to be shooting firearms as a safety measure. And that's how I think that they should be used here in the United States. I'll be honest, I would have a whole lot of suppressors if it didn't require, what always really burned me up was a couple things. One is that I had to, jump through all the hoops. If I wanted to buy a $500 suppressor, or a $600 suppressor, then I had to pay another $200 on top of that for the tax. And then I had to wait. In some cases, it's gotten better recently, but up until about a year ago, it was taking anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to get approval for a suppressor. So you'd buy the suppressor, pay the tax with your application, and then have to wait 2 years, up to 2 years, before you could ever get it. And that was just, to me, that was just madness. I never had a suppressor because for that reason alone. Now, if they made it so that it was just an accessory like any other, then I could justify going out there and I would do all my shooting with a suppressor, because it just makes it so much more enjoyable, and so it is one of the things that I hope that we do follow along. We follow Europe's lead on that because I think it would be a good thing for the shooting industry as a whole, and I think it would be great for innovation, and I think it could cause a renaissance in the suppressor industry if it was open to everyone. And I think that would also again spark innovation in the technology around it, because then every little mom and pop gun shop would then have the ability to try and do a little hard-earned R&D, right? I mean, they could do it in their machine shop there. They could do it without any fear of repercussions or having the ATF shoot their dog and their cat and then batter down their door. So we'll see. But again, I think that a lot of the hand-wringing over this is just that perceived lack of control. And they're willing to tell any lie, perpetuate any untruth that they can to frighten the American people. And that's what all this stuff is. I mean, the quote from if you've been, Chris Murphy, that guy's a soundbite machine. But Chris Murphy out there just telling you how, they're going to be killing people in the next room and you'll never hear it because of suppressors. Again, forgetting the fact that it's already illegal to kill people, and suppressors are fairly easy to make, relatively easy to make, and or even improvised suppressors could be used, and yet they're not used in a fraction of crimes in America. But again, it's fear mongering, and quite honestly, that's what most firearms laws And most of the rhetoric that you hear around firearms, the whole thing is fear mongering, right? I've told the story that my friend Brendan, former producer on the show, had a friend who lived in Spain, and they're both huge WWE fans, right? The wrestling. They both loved it. They were bonded over it. And his friend was going to come over to the United States, spend some time with Brendan, and they were going to go to a live, Raw, whatever, some big live wrestling show. And it never happened because his friend's father was so concerned that if they came to America, that they could be killed, because it was Mogadishu, it was blood on the streets, it was all this, that is the perception, and the perception is being perpetrated against, the American people, the world at large, and everything else. It is just astonishing that we continue to fall for it. The fear tactics, again, with no real self-analysis of what people, or what these talking heads and the politicians and the news media and the celebrities are saying about this kind of stuff. I mean, nothing pisses me off more than some celebrity who's made their bones and made all their money and become famous using firearms in a movie or a drama or something else to, kill a bunch of people, and then come out on some show or talking head telling about how we Americans are evil because we have such a love affair with guns. I'm looking at you, Liam Neeson, right? I used to love Liam Neeson. And, and then he came out one day in some interview or whatever, basically chastising Americans for wanting to have. This is after, by the way, he had become, he was a very successful actor to begin with. And then he came out and had done the Taken movies where, he kills 87 guys over the course of the movie or something, with a gun in this. But, and yet he comes in and tells us how we are evil and wrong because we have a love affair of guns. The hypocrisy of that is just, sorry, I didn't mean to sidebar, but when I said celebrities, that's the first thing that my brain went to, is these guys who are out there shooting. It was like does anybody remember the Lethal Weapon movies? And I think it was the second one, maybe the third one, the second one where Joe Pesci's in it. And if you ever remember that scene, I remember it. I was young. When was Lethal Weapon 2 on? Let me excuse me while I Google that real quick. But Lethal Weapon 2. Lethal Weapon 2. When was that released? That was released 1989. Is that the one with Joe Pesci? It is. Okay. So 1989, Lethal Weapon 2. So I was just out of high school. I remember watching that movie, and I got so upset because here we have a movie where it's a shoot 'em up, right? It's a shoot 'em up. There's guns everywhere. And yet in the police, I still remember the scene in the police station where they're talking to each other and looking over. In every shot on the background in some wall was some anti-NRA poster that was like, guns kill people, don't let the NRA fool you. Whatever it was. It was in every shot inside that police station, it was this anti-citizens being armed, essentially. And again, the hypocrisy of this movie, which is a whole bunch of shoot 'em up, and the fact that they wanted to chastise Americans for, how dare they want to be able to defend themselves or do anything else. It's anyway, it's definitely an interesting conundrum. But this is, again, one of the things that we're fighting against all the time. So that's why they're freaking out about the suppressors. That's, quite honestly, that's why they freak out about anything that has to do with gun control that would allow more Americans to have access to guns. And the thing is, they're right. More and more Americans are turning to firearms. More and more Americans are getting more comfortable with the idea of taking responsibility for their own personal defense. It's happening across the country. I mean, and again, one of the silver linings of COVID, if there is, there's been a handful of things that I would consider to be silver linings coming out of COVID. But one of the things was people started to realize that they have to take responsibility for their own safety, that they can't rely on the government to do those things. And that's why you saw this huge spike in increase. Was it 4 million new gun owners? And a huge percentage of those were women and minorities and people who identified more on the left side of the political spectrum. I welcome them all. I think it makes total sense. Yeah, it's a crazy time, but I would just like to say we are winning. We are moving the needle, but don't stop, because we're not winning decisively. We are winning. It's constant vigilance, my friend. Constant vigilance. That's what it's going to come down to. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right. Let's see. I'm going back here through this thing. Brian says, 1989, I was married with one kid, pregnant wife, full-time job, and in grad school. Who had time for movies? Well, I wasn't too far behind you, because 2 years later, I was married with a kid on the way. So I understand what you're saying. That was 1989. I've been out of high school for 2 years at that point. But yeah, I still took time for movies. That used to be Terry and my thing. We were talking about that. The other day, that used to be our thing, that we would go to the movies on the weekends. And of course, as we had more kids and everything else, that got to be a harder sell, but we used to love to do that. But I actually went to the movies theater for the first time a few weeks ago. I went to the local theater here, the Porcupine, and I had my son, and we went and watched the original Star Wars trilogy on the big screen. That was great. Great. No time for movies. Well, I mean, you can make time. It's part of my lexicon. I enjoy movies. I enjoy the escapism of movies. Richie said, with the Holly weirdos, there's something to be said for shut up and stick to what made you famous. Sadly, we live in a world where people seem incapable of discerning the difference between fame and wisdom. If those people want to do some good, how about they do things like help feed and shelter the homeless and quit commenting about things they know nothing about? It's true, right? I think it was Jimmy Stewart. It was Jimmy Stewart or Cary Grant that said something like that one time when they were asked about something that was relevant or political or whatever. And they're like, people don't care what I think about that because I'm an actor. And I'm just like, God bless you. God bless you. That's it. 100 right there. 100+ million guns in the U.S., says Matt or Nicole. I'm not sure if it's Matt or Nicole, but 100 million plus guns in the U.S. If every person who owned one was a criminal and dangerous, it would be glaringly evident. Well, Matt or Nicole, I'm sorry, but you're dead wrong. there's the lowest estimate is 440 million guns in America. By my estimates, again, back of the napkin math, based on the number of NICS checks, gun bringbacks from World War II and Korea, et cetera, et cetera. My estimate is that there's somewhere closer to 750 million guns in the U.S. So yeah, if every person who owned a gun was a criminal, it would be Mogadishu on every street in America. So yeah, that's the problem. I mean, we've done the math. And the number of people, the number of crimes and everything else. I mean, again, statistically, it is 0.00006%. That's the percentage of crimes committed with guns in America. It's incredibly low. I mean, when you're talking about a country of 330 million Americans with 14,000 homicides, 15,000 homicides, each one a tragedy. I'm not trying to belittle it. Each one a tragedy. But when you look at it from a statistical standpoint, it's minuscule. Minuscule. And as Dr. Lott was just talking about, when you look at the geographic breakdown and the concentration and the fact that 2% of the counties in the United States account for 56% of the murders, okay, this is not a gun issue. I mean, that's pretty statistically, that's pretty relevant right there. This is not a gun issue. All right. We're about to rejoin the radio. Let's continue on here. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like and share. Like and follow the show page. Ring the bell. Do the YouTube-y stuff. All that kind of things. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
All right, welcome back. One final segment to talk about guns before we jump into it with Willie Waffle for our weekend movie review. Oh, I can't wait. Let's get into it. I guess first things first, I'll open up the phone lines. I'm sorry I got to bloviating in the last segment. I should have opened up the phone lines then. But phone lines are now open at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you want to call in and talk about anything related to firearms, you can talk about what I've been talking about, which is, Holly Weird and all the things that they've been doing or the news media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever you want to do, phone lines are open right now. 319-527-3864. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. And I was just talking about how, more and more people are embracing the idea of owning firearms, et cetera, et cetera. And there's more proof of this right here. Despite Washington State's gun laws, women are flocking to gun stores and to ranges. It's not just guys hitting the range anymore. There's an article over at the Seattle Times talking about Western Washington, women hitting the gun stores and the gun range for safety and community. Mickey Lane, 42-year-old single mother, steps out of her car at Paul Bunyan Rifle and Sportsman's Club with her semi-automatic handgun. She carries it to the range where she meets more than a dozen women who are gathered for a bi-weekly meeting of their shooting group, the Puyallup chapter of A Girl and a Gun, which is a national women's firearms organization. No men would enter the shooting bay for the next few hours. This is women only. The demographics of gun ownership are shifting. Sure, there's still predominantly old white guys, right? I mean, that's predominantly where, that's old white guys. But it's changing. According to Gallup, polling from 2019 through last year, 2024, 43% of American men own guns compared to 20% of women. But that has come down over the last 2 decades. While gun ownership overall has stayed steady in that time period, women are increasingly taking up arms for reasons ranging from safety concerns to sport to camaraderie. The ladies that shoot together stay together, right? I mean, that gives you a whole new meaning in the old Hens Club. Social events catering to women are now popping up in shooting communities around the country and in Western Washington specifically, as well as discounts and introductory gun safety courses. It's causing a shift in an arena long dominated by men. It is, and it's good to see. And it's not just women, although, and again, this is something that I have never understood, why more women are not explicitly pro-gun. Because, I mean, hello, this is the greatest equalizer on the face of the earth. You've got a 300-pound gorilla that's going to try and charge you down and assault you. Then you're a $105 soaking wet. What's the greatest equalizer? Mr. Browning's creation in your hand. That's what's going to save you. With a little help from John Moses Browning, you can fix a lot of things. So it's good to see. It's good to see that. But again, it's not just women, minorities, and yes, even those on the left. And I know there's been some squawking in the gun community about, well, we don't want those people to be armed because they're being gun. Hey, I am for anyone that wants to take the responsibility of being armed to be armed. But again, they have to take responsibility. There are some people on the right who I am a little concerned about. I'm a little concerned about being armed. I'm not going to stop it, but I'll keep my eyes on them, right? I'm not one of those guys that says everybody should be forced to have it's Kennesaw, Georgia. Kennesaw, Georgia, they require a gun in every house, and they have almost a zero crime rate. Well, it is statistically true. I don't want everybody to mandate that I have something in my house. It's none of your damn business, right? But I also don't want people preventing me from having anything in my house. So I'm kind of running in the other direction. But yeah, I mean, this is a great opportunity. This is a great time as we watch more and more people come into the gun culture and be part of it. So again, the overall feel here, folks, is that we are winning. It's just taken a little bit of time. And again, definitely don't give up the ship, right? Don't stop, never stopping. We were speaking again with Dr. Lott about the suppressor issue in the reconciliation bill. And I had to laugh because the Violence Policy Center, the VPC, another hand-wringing, gun control organization, they sent out an email blast recently talking about the deregulation of firearm suppressors and how to fight it, right? And what's really interesting about this is that the VPC was then quoted by what's the name of the organization? The Campaign for Gun Industry Accountability. And this email, which came out a couple days ago to supporters, I'm assuming, going on talking about with all the changes in Capitol Hill and the gun lobby and firearm industries renewing their efforts to deregulate silencers. And they go on to talk a little bit about the 1934 and the National Firearms Act and everything else. they go on to talk about how the real part, where they even bolded it themselves and highlighted it. Deregulating silencers would allow for the creation of a new category of easily available firearms, guns with integral silencers, that the gun industry hopes will allow them to resell current gun owners while appealing to potential new customers. Like, integrally suppressed firearms are a new thing. Like, it's a new, you can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, they've been selling integrally suppressed firearms for decades. You just had to jump through all the hoops like you were for a suppressor. It's the same thing. The suppressor just is built into the gun. It's not detachable, right? But I just love this whole thing about, it's a whole new category that they hope to bolster their profits with. Warmongering. Oh my God. It is just crazy. And this new VPC study, which is entitled Silencers, a Threat to Public Safety. It goes on to detail a lot of different things, including it talks about the history of the silencers, as well as crimes involving them, including the December murder of that United Healthcare worker, the CEO, right? Which again was done with an illegal suppressor. The guy printed or CNC'd his own gun and suppressor. At what law was going to stop any? Does nobody see the irony of these situations? Nobody. They don't see the irony of, oh yeah, we need another law to protect people against silencers, even though the example we're going to use is a guy who built his own anyway illegally and then went on to shoot somebody because that was I mean, hello, is this thing on? Does anybody else get the irony of that? It's astonishing. All right. Well, we're running up against the break. We got to go. Willie Waffle's going to be joining us here in a few minutes. We'll return with more movie goodness and entertainment madness. It's up next. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget to come join us on Facebook if you want to hang out in the chat room. We're going to talk during the break here amongst ourselves. Back with more after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Oh, man. I mean, maybe it's just me, but it just seems like nobody else gets the irony that they're going to use as an example of crimes involving, we need to be against taking suppressors and deregulating suppressors. And as an example, we're going to use the guy who built his own and killed somebody with it. Didn't go through all the legal loopholes and the legal channels and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go through all that. I mean, there's just some serious irony there that nobody seems to be picking up on. I mean, I am, but you know what I mean? All right. Let me go back over here to the chat room. See what you guys have been talking about. Frank Banks says, in 89, I was single and hunting in Germany. Well, there you go. There you go. Let's see. We have a great women shooting community in the Valley, said Terry. Is there an organization, Terry? Who's the group? Is it an organized group? Should we have them on to talk about it? I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. Now, which story was that? Rick said, now that's a good story. Which story are you talking about, Rick? I want to know, because when I do a good story, I want to know. Melissa says, Frank, in 89, I was 4. Thanks, Melissa. That way to make me feel old there, girl. Way to make me feel old. Don't forget about the justice system. I know the story leans towards the criminals. Brian says, if it pleases the crown, I would like to make exercising my constitutional rights less annoying to my neighbors. If it pleases the crown. Yeah. Waffles, maybe pancakes. You can talk about now I want pancakes. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate that. You guys are just ripping me down here. In the 1950s, an old film noir flick showed the villain shooting someone by using a down pillow wrapped around the pistol. So will they ban pillows? I mean, right. Pillows are suppressors, technically, because all you're doing is trapping the gas from the shot. You know, I mean, again, hell, a 1 liter soda bottle and some duct tape and some steel wool, and you've fixed it all up. Right? You've got a good one-time, 1-shot, 2-shot disposable. I don't understand it. Yeah, pillows are silencers. Exactly. Donna Anthony has a group of women shooters, and there's one in Palmer as well, which he was talking about, the ladies shooting group. Donna Anthony has a group. Well, we should talk more. We should invite some of these people. I want to get over here. That article that I was talking about the Washington, where's the article? Here we go. They were talking about A Girl and a Gun, and that's a national organization run by Robin Sandoval is the CEO of a Girl and a Gun. I'm going to see if I can get Robin on the program because I want to talk about that. I think that's important. I think that's amazing, and I'd like to see more of it. I definitely would like to see more of it. And find out more about it as well. All the stuff that's going on. So yeah. So if you do find out anything more, Terry, on that, let us know for a while. Chris everybody's comparing their ages now. Melissa's like, I was 4 in 1989, and Chris is like, I was married with 2 kids and living in Seldovia. Go beyond. I'm going to be in Seldovia on the 4th of July. I'm apparently the official MC for all the Seldovia 4th of July events. They said they're going to work me like a dog. So I'm headed over there. So it's going to be good. Stonewall Kitchen. Now we're talking about food. Thanks again, Rick. Stonewall Kitchen, best pancake mix I've ever had. Pancakes and about 4 eggs, big fresh milk, get you going. Have you ever used the Snoqualmie Falls pancake mix? Used to be able to get it at Fred Meyer's. I don't know if you still can. I haven't seen it down here in a while. But Snoqualmie Falls, that's also another great pancake mix. But Stonewall Kitchen, I'll have to look for that one. I do love me some pancakes. Do love me some pancakes for sure. All right. Well, the ding means we're about to rejoin the radio. I'm waiting for my phone to buzz here. A second it does, we're going to connect and get ready to go. Please like and share, like and follow. Do all the you know what to do. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do it. Okay, we are ready for the weekend. I'm ready for the weekend. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies. Never mind. Don't even forget about the website. It's just Willie Waffle, movie and entertainment critic extraordinaire, but not a web developer, obviously. He's here to talk with us about all the movie and entertainment stuff. Hello, my friend.
You know, this is all that the world can handle of me anymore. This is it.
No.
Just, I come out here, I pop off about some movies, and then I go back into my hole.
That's right.
That's what people want.
No website for you. That's just too fancy. It's just too fancy for him. All right. Well, let's go to the news stuff this weekend. Let's get started. What's on the plate? Give me what's happening.
Well, I will lead off with the Nepo Beatles unite, my friend.
Okay.
Yes.
Nepo Beatles.
Zach Starkey, son of Ringo Starr, Sean Ono Lennon, son of John Lennon, and James McCartney, son of Paul McCartney, have all provided vocals on a new song called Rip Off, which is very appropriate. And it is a band that Zach Starkey actually runs called Mantra of the Cosmos. And they dropped a clip on of all days Father's Day, so that they can let you know that the song is coming. And well, it's weird. It's really weird. It's like it's just so weird. It's like you know, like when you're watching like some old '60s movie,
right?
And the hippies start taking drugs,
yeah,
and they start playing like the psychedelic music. That's what it sounds like. Okay,
Lord. Oh Lord.
Just and every once in a while, one of them like comes in and says something, and I'm not really sure what they're saying. And I'm watching the video, which seems to be all these weird images put together. And I'm like, oh dear God, like, dude, I want to cash in on Dad's name too, I think, because you need the name to sell this thing.
No, that's great. Look, there are certain Beatles songs that I love, but there's that whole era where they got into the hippy dippy stuff and it just got weird. And you're just like, and then of course when they split and then John Lennon and his, I mean, it was just, okay, weird. Come on, guys. Let's move forward. I had some hope. I mean, Julian Lennon, the elder son, was pretty good.
Yeah.
He had some good stuff. He had a little bit of fame for himself in the late 80s, early 90s, and he thought but no, if we're going back to the 60s, we do not need to regress at this point.
Yeah, it's just and I had hope. I was like, well, maybe this won't be so bad. I mean, Zach Starkey plays drums for the Who sometimes, so I'm like, so he's got some talent. I mean, he's not horrible, he's not bad. Just when left to his own devices, instead of playing music written by good people, his music is not so good.
His music is a little weird. They call it experimental, which is never good.
Well, let me know when you perfect it, because right now it's not paying off.
Exactly. You need a little bit more practice to make it a thing. All right. And so they're trying to sell it. They're trying to, this is an album, or is it just a single?
Well, yeah, like this is like Zach's band. So this is going to be like one of their singles. And I guess you could download it someplace. I after hearing the clip, I did not feel any desire to seek it out or find out where I may be able to purchase such valuable art. But I assume it's out there somewhere.
I think people will probably be going back to the Beatles instead of the whatever the pretentious name of the band was, the meaning of the universe or something. I mean, like all right. Well, that's I guess that's interesting, not good news. It's interesting news. Let's talk about Tom Cruise and Dolly Parton. There's a couple that I would never think to say in the same sentence, but they're both getting some awards.
Yeah, this is big. This is huge. It was announced this week that Tom Cruise, Dolly Parton, Wynn Thomas, who's a production designer who works a lot with Spike Lee, and choreographer and actress Debbie Allen will be recipients of honorary Oscars this year. So they're going to have the big ceremony in November. I'm sure you're going to hear about it all during the Oscars next year when they have that show in, I think it's March next year. And now the difference is now Cruise is getting an honorary Oscar. Dolly Parton is actually getting the G. Hirschholt Humanitarian Award for all of her charitable endeavors. She does a lot with reading. She does a lot with education. I mean, anybody who knows anything about Dolly Parton knows she's probably the most generous human being on the planet, for God's sakes. And she's going to get an Oscar for that. So, like I said, they're going to have the big ceremony in November. They have what's called the Governor's Ball. That's the board, basically the board that runs the academy, and they have a big fundraising event, and everybody puts on their tuxes and spends way too much money to sit at a table 5,000 yards away from the stage, but they'll still say they were there. and they talked to Tom somehow.
Yeah,
So we'll see
exactly.
how it goes.
Well, and this is weird because I mean Tom Cruise has been in a million movies, but
Yeah.
not an Oscar winner. And so this is like, is this like the participation award for the Oscar? What is this?
Yeah, I think it really is. Even when they were talking about why he's getting the Oscar, they went into a great deal about this is a guy who's kept Hollywood running for years and years and years. This is a guy who has had some of the biggest, most successful movies in the history of movies. This is a guy who, when the pandemic hit, I make no bones about it. I think he almost single-handedly saved the Hollywood film business.
Right.
By literally going out there and continuing to make big movies, trying to get them into theaters, trying to convince other studios to make big movies. I mean, this is a guy that was really hitting the bricks and working the phones to make sure that we did not become a streaming only society.
Right.
And I think this is the award for that. This is the award for being the biggest star on the planet. A lot of people call Tom Cruise the last great movie star. There's a lot of talk about that. And so they're going to give him his moment. Well, and this has happened for others. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Charlie Chaplin.
Right.
Charlie Chaplin was one of the most successful actors and comedians of all time in Hollywood, but he never won an Oscar. They gave him one towards the end of his career, towards the end of his life. And that's what they do here with these. Let's honor some people who maybe never got the one they should have got for acting. Cruise has come close a couple of times. It seems like he's kind of gone away from even trying to pursue that anymore. But he does deserve to have a place in Hollywood history. He already has one in everybody's hearts and minds.
Right.
Let's give him an Oscar to make it official.
I thought he's had a couple movies that I definitely thought were Oscar contenders. You remember Far and Away with him and Nicole Kidman?
Yep, very good movie.
That was was an epic movie, and it was very well acted, and it was. But again, I mean, like you said, the most successful actor in Hollywood today still can't get any love from the Academy because apparently his movies are too popular, right? It's like it's
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think they don't want to. Oh, we're not going to the plebeians. We're not going to let the peasants decide who the Oscar winner is. We're gonna, and I think that's part of the problem that I've always had with the Oscars is that it has to be some kind of artsy fartsy, or whatever the soup du jour is of the year kind of movie, and they let other good movies that were stunningly successful and really good entertainment and well done, and they let those ones go. And I'm just like, that didn't seem to make sense to me. But okay, good for him. He's going to get it.
And I think it's going to become even more pronounced that divide between the popular movies and the artsy movies, because in a couple of years, the Oscars are going to roll out what is called the Achievement in Box Office Award. I can't remember if that's the exact name of it, but basically it's going to be, let's give an Oscar to one of the most popular films that everybody went to see because we never give it a regular Oscar.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
this is the Oscar they would give, Top Gun. This is the Oscar they would give Barbie movie, something that, was not going to win, but should, even, because it is a really good movie. And now they're going to say, well, you made a lot of money. Let's give you an award for that.
Again, a popularity contest. All right. Well, we'll see. And of course, Debbie Allen, she's the Fame gal, right? She's from Fame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what she's best known for, was for Fame. Doing the choreography, was the star of the TV show for years and years and years. I mean, and has done a great deal of other work with many, many other films since then. I mean, she really is the top choreographer in Hollywood.
All right. Yeah. Well, good for them. We'll see what happens in December. But I'm more interested in Joey Chestnut.
Baby.
Joey Chestnut. This is a story that's got to be near and dear to your heart.
Oh, this is like my favorite story every year. That's right. Joey Chestnut is back for the July 4th hot dog eating contest. It's right. The controversy's over. There was a big falling out between Joey Chestnut and the Major League Eating League. Okay. Major League Eating is the organization for professional competitive eaters. And, he was banned from the Nathan's Coney Island Hot Dog Eating Championship last year because he made an endorsement deal with a plant-based non-meat hot dog. And there was controversy. And they wouldn't let him compete at the Coney Island Award. And so he did like his own thing with Kobayashi around Labor Day, like it was a whole big drama last year for people who watched it. This year they're putting down their boxing gloves, and they're going to say, "Come on back, Joey." Now, why is this important? I'll tell you why this is important. Prior to last year, Joey Chestnut had won the contest every year since 2015.
Oh, wow.
And he has won a total of 16 times over the years. The guy is an eating machine. Okay, yeah, I've actually seen him. He came up locally. He was at one of the local casinos and won a contest there. I mean, the dude just doesn't stop eating.
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
Well,
and you would think I would appreciate this kind of gluttony, but I actually am a little turned off by the Major League eating because it doesn't look like they're having fun.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I eat food because I enjoy food, not because I want to stuff it down my gullet, But I saw this story last year and I never did understand. So what if he had an endorsement deal with Beyond Meat or whoever it was that he had the endorsement deal with? I mean, so what? Was Nathan so butthurt about it that was their, I mean, it's not like those meatless hot dog places are going to be cutting that far into Nathan's business
exactly
model, right? I mean, come on. It just seemed like sour grapes.
No, it totally seems like sour grapes. I'm with you. I mean, I think either you want a Nathan's hot dog or you want a plant-based hot dog.
Right.
It's not like, you're going to be like, I'm going to replace my Nathan's hot. No, you're not. You're not.
No, you're not. Yeah.
You've made your decision.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if anything, the meatless hot dogs just bring hot dogs to more people who aren't into it for whatever reason.
Yeah,
so I don't know why they were so upset. I never really understood the fight. I never understood the battle. I don't think even Joey Chestnut understands it. All he knows is July 4th is his again,
That's
baby.
right.
At noon on Friday, July 4th, the man is going to down some hot dogs, and he's got an anger in him now, right? He's got a chip on his shoulder now, right? He may set another record just to prove a point.
Oh, well. Well, we got about 3 minutes here, so we got three things. Elio, I'm not really, I mean, it's a Disney movie. I'm sure it's great, but whatever you want to do, hit me with it quick here.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll give you the two smaller ones, quickly. Elio. So this is the Disney animated film about a young boy who's like obsessed with space. He's obsessed with aliens, and accidentally he sends a message to space that makes aliens believe he is the leader of Earth, and they have brought him to their planet to talk. And of course, he's a little boy who's way out of his element and way out of his league. And it's a nice action-filled kind of kids story about an outcast, a kid who doesn't fit in with everybody else, who finally finds his place, finally finds some friends, and shows his mettle. I'm at 3 waffles. I thought that was pretty good.
Okay.
Yep. Then
That's
we
good.
Also have Bride Hard, which is the Rebel Wilson movie, and oh God, it's so bad.
Oh.
It's just like, it's so bad. I mean, it's okay. So she's the bridesmaid at her friend's wedding, but she's also secretly a spy, and the bad guys have invaded, and now she's got to take care of business in between trying to help the bridesmaid find something blue and something new. Yeah, it's not funny. It's not funny. Everything is so forced. All the situations are so obvious. I mean, and then you have like this really great cast, and you're like, man, all of you are cashing checks here because all of you can do better than this.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem is Rebel Wilson. She's funny. I'll give her credit for being funny, but she's not an action star.
Yeah.
And when they try to mix the two together, her lack of being an action star is so obvious it hurts the movie. I'm at half a waffle for Bride Hard.
Half waffle. All right. Well, that leaves us with a minute for 28 years later.
Yeah, the sequel to 28 Days Later, the sequel to 28 Years Later. Well, now it's 28 years later. We find that, basically the United Kingdom has been barricaded off from the rest of the world because the zombies have taken over, and they don't want the zombies getting to the rest of the countries and destroying the planet. And we catch up with this small family that lives on a secluded island. It's separated from the mainland by a little strip of a causeway that, of course, floods when the tide's high, and it keeps them safe from the zombies. But they still have to go into the mainland and forage and find supplies. And a little boy is learning how to do this, and he hears rumors that there's a doctor on the mainland that may be able to help his mother, and he's willing to risk it all.
Okay. I mean, these movies, like I said, I hate fast zombies, and this movie is all about fast zombies and some crazy.
It's all fast zombies. I think they're cool as heck. I'm at 3 waffles.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a movie where the first half I think is necessary because they have to establish a lot, but the second half is really good. That's where the action really kicks up.
All right.
And the emotions kick up.
3 waffles for 28 years later. We'll be looking for that one for sure. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend, for coming on board today. As always, it's good to talk with you. Folks, we got more coming up on Monday. Be kind, love one another, live well, enjoy the weekend. Yeah, I mean, I did like 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, but it just, again, there's just something spooky about a zombie who just runs you down like you're prey or something instead of the, Walking Dead slow shufflers. Or, I mean, those are scary enough in mass, but man, when you get them where they can outrun you, speeders, that's what it's like. Ooh, that's super spooky.
Well, then this one's going to really get you because the fast-moving zombies have evolved. They're even faster. They're even tougher.
Oh, geez.
They're even smarter. And and that's what makes it. But I think that's what adds such tension to the movie and such excitement and thrill to the movie because there's a good chance that you could die because they figured out how to lure you into traps. They figured out how to attack people. They are showing their dominance in a way in the movie that is super gross and horrifying. And and you're sitting there going, damn, that's pretty cool. Now there's going to be 3 of these, believe it or not. So this is the first of 3 more movies. So there's going to be another one, a follow-up to this one. And when you see this one, they set it up at the end for a big sequel. I mean, it's really obvious. But this movie does have an ending. I mean, and I want to make that clear. This movie has an ending. And you could see this movie and you'll be fine. You're not like it's not like it's a part 2 in the next movie.
Right.
But the next movie is set up. I mean, they give you a sequel. They're laying their hand out there that come January of next year, and I think it's January, they want to release the second movie, and then there'll be a third movie which is still being written right now.
Okay, yeah. So is it going to be 28 centuries later? I mean, what's it going to be?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, because what they've set up at the end of this movie. Does not lend itself, in my mind, to go, hey, 28 months later. Yeah, I mean, because when you throw off the math, although maybe they are going to throw off the math. Because maybe they're going to say, hey, 28 months after the last movie, here we go. And then,
it would be on theme, I guess. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
The next one will be 28 decades later, and you're like, okay, wait a second. All right. I'm still watching Department Q. Holy cow, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, I had so good right
now.
And not watching anything else right now. That's pretty much it. I haven't had much time, but lots of good stuff. What are you watching this weekend?
I actually watched Sirens, which is a 5-part series on Netflix. So this is Alcock from the Game of Thrones. I'm blanking on her first name, and Megan Fahey, and they're sisters from Buffalo. And Alcock has gone off and she's gotten a job with this uber rich family where she's like the assistant to the wife, and Megan Fahey is the daughter who stayed behind, who needs her to come back now. Needs her to come back because their father is very ill. She needs help raising him, so she decides to head off to the Martha's Vineyard where this rich family's living to get her sister to come back. And when she gets there, she realizes her sister might be part of a cult. And so it's got off to the races. And it's a series that can be very, very funny at times. I think it's very mysterious at times. I just felt like it missed the payoff a little bit. It's still a good mystery. It's still a lot of fun. It's still kind of at times a parody of these big melodramatic soap opera kind of miniseries that we have about rich people. And I think Megan Fahey was beyond fantastic. fantastic in this movie. I mean, everything I've been seeing her in lately, I'm just more and more convinced this is my new favorite actress. It's Megan Fahey. You know, she's great. She was in that Drop movie where she's trapped in the restaurant and somebody's trying to manipulate her to kill the guy she's having dinner with.
Right.
You know, she's done a lot of really good stuff lately. I'm all for her. I think she's great.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see it. We'll see what it's about. Sirens. Where's that at? On Netflix?
That's on Netflix. It's 5 parts, all of them about an hour long.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming on board and inside and on whatever. All right. Thank you. It's all good.
I was here.
You were here. You get a participation ribbon as well. All right. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you. Talk to you next week.
Then.
All right, folks. Out of time. We will see you guys tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.